This is a dangerous fight for Charles Olivera. Alright, welcome back to another video over here on SCS Combat, and today I'm going to be giving you my official prediction for the main event of UFC 326 going down this weekend. Charles Olivera and Max Holloway have their highly anticipated rematch going down for the BMF title at UFC 326. Let's go. Alright, so starting off, obviously both fighters have one win since their knockout losses, I think. So Max Holloway is coming off the back of that victory over Dustin Poirier back in July of last year. Obviously that was Poirier's retirement fight. Before that, Holloway gets knocked out by Poirier, but then before that, he gets that last second UFC 300 knockout against Justin Gaethje. So, you know, that was the first time he's went out. He's been down from then. Poirier dropped and Gaethje did drop him before. So there's potential for Holloway to be hurt. But I suppose on the other hand, Charles Oliveira has also been knocked out by Poirier, because as we know, Poirier is currently on a legendary knockout streak by the fighters that he's beaten. I mean, legends in their own right. Of course, he's just knocking them all out. Very, very sad time. But he has since come back just months later and took on Gamrot, beat him, submitted him, and yeah, that's the way both fighters are looking at the moment. Now, in terms of their last fights, obviously Holloway got dropped, then he dropped Poirier, I think twice, hurt him multiple times. Even you look at those last 10 seconds, you know, Poirier was hurt in the point of the center with the body shots. The combination punching from Holloway really was special. Holloway has not been submitted in a very long time. I think Poirier was the last one to submit him in their first fight, so he's took on great grapplers from them, you know, the likes of Brian Ortega, because obviously Brian Ortega took a lot of punches, but Ortega wasn't able to do anything to Holloway. And these two have fought before, which is good to mention. Obviously Holloway throughout his whole career has been consistent and has been that level of fighter, has been constantly improving and world champion and moving up weight classes now, and he's only really getting into those ages where it's near the end of his career now after being in the UFC from, I believe, he was 19. So Holloway's been in here for a while, but he's always been at that level, whereas Charles Oliveira, we all know, and this was one of the fights that had happened and had that run where he was just considered maybe a quitter, maybe someone who wasn't. They just didn't have that dog in him to go to the next level, and this is when he fought Max Holloway for the first time, and obviously that one ends in an injury for Charles Oliveira. He goes down, I think it was his esophagus, I think it was in that fight, and that was that. Fight was over and Holloway wins. Yeah, interesting. But as we know, Charles Oliveira has completely changed as a fighter from their first fight. You look at the run he went on, the fighters he had to beat: Gaethje, Poirier, winning the title and coming back from adversity against Michael Chandler, dropping him back and winning the world title, and he had to beat Tony Ferguson as well before that. You know, there's been a lot of fighters that Charles Oliveira has come back and beat to go on that run, and then obviously he has lost from then, and he has lost the belt to Ilya and he lost to Islam via submission. But Charles Oliveira is so far improved that the comparison to his old self wouldn't even be respectable, really. Now, that has obviously been the main conversation. Max Holloway has now moved up to lightweight and Ilya moved up behind them anyway, so it doesn't really matter. This could end up being a title eliminator, who knows, but I think our man should still get the shot. Obviously Gaethje's interim champion, so that's what's likely, but White House card coming up, who knows. But I think my biggest thing is, right, Holloway hits, this is like the attributes of both fighters, because obviously Holloway wasn't looked at as a hard hitter, I don't think, but I think he's proved his power. You know, he dropped Gaethje in their fight before he knocked him out cold, then he knocked the Korean Zombie out cold as well. He dropped Poirier, hurt him multiple times, had great shot selection in that fight. You know, I watched it back, and the right hand to the body was something Holloway landed a lot. I think it was because of the southpaw stance of Poirier more. But Charles Oliveira is also a hard hitter. He drops Gaethje into submission. Been known for that power, knocking Michael Chandler out, hurting him. Holloway hits hard as well. Oliveira hits hard as well, and obviously he brings that submission game, which is, I mean, he's got the most submissions in UFC history. He is technically the best submission artist in the UFC, which is something, because obviously last time out against Gamrot, and this is kind of the thing, Holloway has never really took on a grappler to the level of Oliveira, and fought the likes of Brian Ortega nowhere near the level, in my opinion. Oliveira is tough, he's got those skills, but Gamrot is not as high level as a striker as he is good as wrestling, and obviously Oliveira still got him down, submitted him, which is something to look at. Kind of main thing with Charles Oliveira is his striking weakness, is his defense. Been exposed a bit, obviously Gaethje dropped him, I believe Poirier hurt him. You know, Oliveira is there to be hit, and I mean the biggest sign of them all where it really was that Ilya to Poirier one where he just walked on to a right hook, and that was that. But Holloway hasn't been submitted in a long time. Has he fought as many fighters that would look to submit him heavily? Maybe not, but yeah, I don't know. You gotta look at it as someone who hasn't been submitted in a long time against someone who has been knocked out recently, going up against one of the, I mean, Holloway hasn't been submitted in ages, and he's going up against one of the best grapplers. Oliveira has been dropped and he has been knocked out quite recently, and obviously Holloway has as well, and Olivera hits hard. But the point is that Holloway is considered one of the best strikers in the UFC. Is also considered to have one of the best chins even after being dropped or knocked out. Still, the amount of punches that he can take and go forward, keep fighting. Same with Olivera, though. This is the problem. Olivera is a tough fighter as well. Although they both get dropped, but they're both extremely tough. But I think Holloway is the one to do it. I do think Holloway is going to beat Charles Olivera this weekend. I think he's going to retain his BMF title. I just don't see him getting submitted. Well, I can't. Obviously, you can see him getting beat by submission if that's how he's going to get beaten. Olivera has that power as well. This is a tough pick. But I do just feel like one thing that I've noticed since he went up to lightweight is his power has not only improved, but the people that he's fighting are really struggling to adjust to his speed. And I think with the speed of Holloway, the power now that he brings, and I think he's going to be able to control range pretty good. Stay away from Olivera. Stay away from that submission game. Stay away from being submitted. And I do think that over the course of 5 rounds, Max Holloway will stop Charles Olivera. Maybe that's not a prediction that a lot of people want to hear. This is actually a tough one because in terms of fan bases, like seeing Charles Olivera get that win back was unbelievable against Gamrot. Holloway is also one of my favorite fighters, so this is our tough pick, and it's tough to pick against one of these fighters, but it has to be done. So look at the track record. Holloway hasn't been submitted in ages. Olivera's been dropped against Chandler, Gaethje. He's been hurt against Chandler again in the rematch. Even he was still able to get through on Olivera and made him struggle to end. Obviously, Olivera won that one easily, but I've got Max Holloway by I feel like 4th round stoppage here. I feel like eventually the damage is going to add up. I think he's going to clip Charles Olivera, and that's where he gets him ground and pound. Yeah, that's my pick. I've got Max Holloway this weekend. This is a dangerous fight for both fighters. This is a dangerous fight for Charles Olivera in my opinion because he's getting stopped. That's what I think. Maybe I'm wrong, or maybe even Holloway hurts him and goes down into the ground and pound and gets submitted. Who knows? That's the beauty of this fight. It's such high level, such high skill, and I can't wait to find out. Make sure to subscribe and come back because I will be live for UFC 326 and probably for Misfits going down as well this weekend. For anyone that likes to watch those shows, make sure to come along. And yeah, hopefully for the sake of my pick, the best is still blessed, and it's Max Holloway. Yeah, like, subscribe, follow for more. Instagram, Twitter, TikTok.